Shabam, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Wonderful. We'll get started in just a few minutes.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, everyone. Thank you for coming today. I just want to say a huge thank you to the audience for definitely showing up, showing out. I hope you guys are enjoying the sandwiches from Ike Sandwiches, made with love. I am not sponsored by them, but yeah, no. I just also want to say a huge thank you to the one senator that's with us at this table, uh, um, the applicants for coming, and more so on that. Let me just get back to the script. These two candidates uh, have been going through a very lengthy process, the process of which where they first underwent applications and um, they went through a private interview. And so right now, this is the last stage of this process where they are now at the public interview. And before I go into it, my name is Jacob Huang. I'm a third year business economics major with a minor in finance. I've been with the association and the Office of Finance and Resources for a little over 2 years now. So it's 10% of my life right there. Um, so I just want to say, good luck to these CFO applicants, these candidates. They put a lot of work into this. A huge thanks to the Senate Hearing Oversight Committee, for putting in the work, as well as that. And before I get into the questions, I just want to remind everyone that there's giveaways. If we can go into the giveaway slide. Uh, all right. Yep. So just to preface, in order to enter the giveaway drawing, you must repost this post on your story, attend at least 2 C-level public interviews. So this one you're currently sitting in right now is a C-level interview. This is for this chief financial officer position. And you must attend at least 6 associate vice president public interviews as well. And some of the prizes involved are including AirPods, a MacBook Air, iPads, and much more. All right. Can we shift on to the candidate slide? All right. Yeah, so these are our lovely 2 candidates here today doing the public interview for the Chief Financial Officer position. We have Subham Patra and Tim Wu. You know, can we just like put our hands together and give a huge round of applause to them for showing out? You know, it's a very important day for the both of them. All right. All right. So I'm going to start with the questions. Tim, you'll be answering first. So can you please introduce yourself and tell us tell us about any relevant experience you have related to the role of Chief Financial Officer. You have 2 minutes.
Oh, glow red.
Hello everyone. Nice to meet you all. I'm Tim Wu. So today it's my pleasure to be here to answer your questions. So first, I'm an upcoming senior at UCSD for undergraduate student. I'm majoring mathematics, computer science, international business, and international relations, and also minoring in business economics. So I have about 4 year experience working in different student organizations. I have been 1 year of director of event planning, 1 year of director of academic affair under 2 different organizations. One is the psychology at UC San Diego. Other one is the Chinese Student Scholar Association at UCSD. So I did both. I have been president for both organizations. So I do have some background about the CFO things. The CSSA is a nonprofit 501c3 organization. So we have a monthly report that was writing as requested by the IRS. So I do have the template, and I also do the review work about the CFO, but I also demonstrate my leadership in student organization. So I think that's all about my experience so far.
All right, thank you so much, Tim. Now going on to you, Shabam. Could you please introduce and tell us about any relevant experience you have related to the role of Chief Financial Officer? You have 2 minutes.
So hi everyone, I am Shubham Patra and I am really excited to be here today. I am currently pursuing a Bachelor of Science Business Economics at UCSD, where I'm constantly maintaining a GPA of 3.77 in my major. And my experience in financial management and operation aligns well with the responsibilities of the CFO role. In my most recent positions as the Central Operation Assistant at the UCSD Alumni Center, I manage the front desk operations and handle like over 150 inquiries weekly. And this role like honed my skills in financial tracking and budgeting. And I coordinated logistics for events and managed records for like various alumni programs as well. Like I improved the data accuracy significantly. And I believe it was all about ensuring that resources were allocated efficiently, which is very crucial for the CFO position. And additionally, I served as the Director of Alumni Relations for the UCSD Associated Students, where I managed a $50,000 annual budget. I tracked like cash flows and expenses meticulously and like ensuring financial transparency. And during my time as a finance and operations intern at Pramila Projects, I analyzed financial transactions to like ensure compliance with tax regulations, which like helped strengthen contractor and supplier relationship. And lastly, I co-founded a digital platform called the Blisscape, where I secured $5,000 in funding and like I led a team in managing finances. So I believe my background in financial management combining with my leadership experiences and positions me well to contribute to the ASUCST as CFO. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shabam. All right. This next question will go back to you first, and then Tim will answer second. For the next question, the second question, what would you describe as the significance of the Chief Financial Officer role? You have 2 minutes.
Absolutely. I would be happy to share my thoughts on the significance of the Chief Financial Officer role. So first off, the CFO role is like the backbone of financial management within an organization, especially in a setting like ASUCSD, where we are managing a $8.2 million student activity fee. So I believe it's crucial for the CFO to ensure that funds are like allocated efficiently across various student organization and projects. And this not only like involves drafting and maintaining the executive budget, but also like ensuring transparency and communication throughout the budgeting process. And like in my experience as the director of alumni relations, I also like learned how to track cash flows and expenses accurately. And moreover, like overseeing funding requests from student organizations is a key. And it's about creating a fair and equitable resource allocation process, which like directly impacts student engagement and satisfaction. So another important aspect is the ability to adapt to unforeseen circumstances, I would say, like managing AS mandate reserves for emergencies. The CFO needs to be prepared for anything and ensure that the organization remains financially stable even in tough times.
All right. Thank you so much, Shabam. Tim, this will go back to you. What would you describe as the significance of the Chief Financial Officer role? You have 2 minutes.
Yeah, I think CFO is a very important role in any organization. And in my opinion, that CFO is not just managing a number or just creating a spreadsheet, but more about caring like how is the funding goes, which align to the AS value and mission, and also like how this funding can help the organization or the campus event grow in a better way. And another significant, I think, is the building trust, because I think CFO role is very important since it's managing funding, and I believe people are kind of curious about where is the funding spent. So I think we should also building a trust that make students understand what the fund goes on and why we are making those decisions.
All right. Thank you so much, Tim. For the next question, it'll be you, Tim, first. What is your understanding of the associate student's budget and the processes and authority surrounding it? You have 2 minutes.
Yeah, so I think the budget part is very important. Things we have a very specific process we need to go through step by step, and I think is already been go through many years. I think what we do is to make sure that all the steps, all the process are clear, visible, and public to people, and make sure like if people having question about financial issue, we can just using like chart or result to showing them the correct answer. I think the authority part is it's just like we need to do what our value and mission want us to do. So we should 100% follow the AS guideline when we go through any process about funding request and anything like that.
All right. Thank you, Tim. Shabam, I'm asking you next. What is your understanding of the associate student's budget and the processes and authority surrounding it?
So when it comes to the Associated Students budget, I see it as a really important framework that helps manage the 8.2 million student activity fee. And I believe it's all about ensuring the funds are allocated effectively across various student organizations and projects. First off, I understand there's a specific process that we need to follow for budget planning, and this involves like drafting and maintaining the executive budget, which is like very crucial for transparency and communication with all the stakeholders. And it's not just about the crunching numbers, but it is also about really understanding the need of different AS offices and student organizations. And I think regular budget planning meetings would be like a really a key to like gather input and ensure that everyone feels heard. And also analyzing past budgets like could give us insights into what worked and what didn't, allowing us to like improve our approach moving forward. And I believe this kind of reflection is essential for making informed decisions. Plus, like overseeing funding requests from student organizations is a very significant part of the role. And we want to create a fair process where every group has a chance to like to get the support they need, which directly impacts student engagement and satisfaction, I would say.
All right, thank you so much, Shabam. For the next question, the fourth question, Shabam, you'll be answering first, Tim following. The AS funding guide consists of 4 different funding types: programming, tournament and competition, operating, and interest-free programming loans, known as IFPLs. If you were contacted by a principal member who wanted to understand more about the different funding types available to them, how would you describe each of the 4 funding types? You have 2 minutes.
The AS funding guide includes the 4 main types of funding, which you said, each serving different needs for student organizations. First up, we have programming funds. This type is designed to like support events or activities and that enhance like student life on campus. So if a club like wants to host a workshop or a speaker series or a cultural event, they can apply for programming funds to help cover costs like venue rental and maybe supplies. And as you said, the next one was the tournament and competition funds. These funds are especially for student organizations that want to like participate in competitions or tournaments. For example, if a sports team or an academic club is like looking to enter a regional or national competition, they can like apply for those funds to help with travel expenses or like registration fees and other like related costs, I would say. And the third one, which you said was the operating funds, I believe that's a bit broader and is like meant to help organizations like cover their day-to-day expenses and like things like maybe office supplies, printing materials, or like even membership fees for like different organizations. And the last one was the interest-free programming loans, where the loans are like available for organizations that like might need a bit of like upfront cash to like kick off a project or like event, but can it pay back later maybe. So I believe it's like a helpful way to get the ball rolling without the burden of interest, making it like easier for groups to like manage their budgets.
All right, thank you. All right, going back to you, Tim, I'll reemphasize the question because I know it's pretty dense. The AS funding guide consists of 4 different funding types: programming, tournament and competition, operating, and interest-free programming loans, known as IFPLs. If you were contacted by a principal member who wanted to understand more about the different funding types available to them, how would you describe each of the 4 funding types? You have 2 minutes.
Okay, I will just quickly describe a little bit. So for the programming fund is just mainly for the events and the student organization that they can apply for, which is having a large amount of money that they usually can apply for. And the second one is the tournament and competition. There are some requirements for each of the funds, which we have to be more specific on the requirements, but is not gonna be too much for students to apply. And the third one is the operating fund, which is very small amount limit. I think it's about 500 each quarter or year. So that one is more about like flyer printing and stuff like that by intent. And the last one is the loans that is for organization that they need extra help with that. Um, since I'm not too familiar with all of those funds in detail at this moment, but I will also guide students to read it online too, because I think there are lots of different funds, different requirements, and different time period. They has to look at that themselves at least once, more detailedly. That way, it helps them to apply in the future. But I also will learn those things if if I like to.
Thank you, Tim. All right. For the next question, this will be the last question on my end. This will, Shabam, you'll be asking first, you'll be answering first, then followed by Tim. One of the key responsibilities, actually, sorry, no, Tim, you'll be answering first, and then it'll be Shabam.
Sure.
All right. One of the key responsibilities of the Chief Financial Officer is to draft and maintain the executive budget of associated students. During this upcoming academic year, the association will face an increase due to the increase in student enrollment. How will you ensure that student fees are being utilized efficiently by the 12 AVP offices, the Senate, and other services and commissions? You have 2 minutes.
Okay, I think after elected, we're gonna have a board member meeting, talk about what we gonna focus on this upcoming year, especially what CFO can do to align with our new mission and value, especially focus on the new year that increasing of student enrollment. So next thing we're gonna talk to the AVPs about setting the goal and standard, make sure that everyone understand what we're doing and why we are focusing differently than last year, or what our new plan is. Maybe we more prioritizing on the diversity or accessibility and so on. So we need to have a plan, and we discuss with the AVPs and align with the whole idea and goals. After that, I think secondly is the report. After we all setting the goal, we need to make in progress. So every time when we have funding requests or anything like that, we're gonna talk about how this decision align with our mission, and we need to discuss a little bit more about that in the meeting, I believe so, to make sure that every dollar or every decision are made correctly. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Tim. Going on to you, Shabam, I'll restate the question. One of the key responsibilities of the Chief Financial Officer is to draft and maintain the executive budget of associated students. During this upcoming academic year, the association will face an increase due to the increase in student enrollment. How will you ensure that student fees are being utilized efficiently by the 13 AVP offices, the Senate, and other services and commissions? You have 2 minutes.
So with the increase in student enrollment, it's crucial that we ensure that every dollar from student fees is effectively used across the 13 AVP offices, the Senate, and the other services. First off, I would kick things off with a comprehensive budget planning meeting. This would involve all the AVPs to really dive into the needs and align them with our overarching goals. So it's important that we all understand that our priorities are for the year, whether it's enhancing diversity, accessibility, or other initiatives that directly impact student life. Next, I would implement a structured process for reviewing funding requests. Each request would need to clearly demonstrate how it aligns with our mission and objectives. And maybe by setting these standards, we can make sure that every funding decision is purposeful and justifiable. And I would also emphasize transparency in this process, making it clear to everyone involved how decisions are made and why. And additionally, I would set up regular check-ins and monitor progress. This way, we can evaluate how funds are being utilized and make adjustments if needed. And I believe it's all about being proactive rather than reactive. If we notice that certain areas are underperforming or not meeting their goals, we can pivot and reallocate resources as necessary. And lastly, I would also focus on communication, which is a key aspect. keeping an like open line with all the stakeholders, all the AVPs or the Senate is a big key. Like we need to ensure that everyone is on the same page and like feel supported in their initiatives. So maybe this collaborative approach like not only like builds trust, but like also ensures that we are working towards the same goals.
All right, thank you so much, Shabam. Now at this part of public interview, I'm going to shift to public question. Do we have a QR code for that? All right, for any members of the public, including the Senate. All right, the Senate, okay. So for Senate, actually, we're doing Senate question time. You have 15 minutes max. Each senator will have 1 minute to ask a question, and each candidate has 2 minutes to answer. Yes, Ashlyn? Ask your question.
Hi. My question to both of you guys is seeing the CFO's role this year, it seems like there's a lot of time management that kind of goes into it, especially over the summer and the first couple weeks of fall with creating like our whole yearly budget. So I just want to hear from you guys, what are your like strategies or things that you would implement or currently implement when it comes to time management and working on deadlines?
And Shabam, you'll be asking first.
That's a great question, I would say. Time management is like very crucial, especially in a role like the CFO where there are many moving parts. So maybe here's how I'd like approach it. First off, like I would start with a clear timeline for like budgeting process. I think it's really important to like break down the entire year into manageable chunks. Like I would set key milestones for like each phase of the budget creation, like gathering input from the AVP offices and like analyzing past budgets and like also drafting the initial budget proposal. And by having these checkpoints, I can like ensure we are staying on track and like nothing falls off the cracks. And also, I would prioritize tasks based on urgency and importance. Like for example, if certain funding requests come in that align closely with our strategic goals, I would make sure that those are addressed first. And using a project management tool like could really help me out there, and which will like allow us to like visualize what's on our plate and like adjust as needed. And I would also emphasize the importance of like flexibility. Sometimes unexpected challenges do come up, and it is vital to be like able to pivot when necessary. And if we notice like that certain areas need more attention or resources, I would be like ready to reallocate as needed, keeping our goals in sight.
Thank you so much, Shabam. Tim, you now have the floor.
Hi, I think I have a lot of time. That's for me because right now next year I'm be becoming senior, and I only have 6 courses remaining to graduate. So I have 3 quarters left to take all those courses, and I don't actually have since I quit all the organization. Right now I have a lot of time, especially during the summer. I think first the advantage for me is I have a really much of time to work on the CFO roles. I think time is very important. And another thing is when I handle sudden thing like the thing that I haven't expected before, I can respond to those things very quickly. Since I don't my schedule is really flexible, so I do able to put all the thing on time even in the last minute. But my habit is to finish all my due like all the assignment like at least about 3 days before the due date. So I think I can handle all the problems that dealing with the deadline, dealing with the time management. Yeah, so um, that's about me.
All right, do any more? Yes.
Thank you both of you for being here. My question is more to do with your role as members of the executive of the association. How do you intend to ensure that you, as members of the executive, are making yourselves accountable to, for example, the legislature, the Senate, and how will you make sure that information is given to the Senate as needed so that they can effectively hold you to account?
And then Tim, you have the floor first.
Yeah, I think communication is very important. Um, I think everyone's ideas matter. So I always believe that all the people have very great ideas to share. Uh, if I have idea and I want to let people know, I absolutely want to share it. So I would just want to communicate with others. So I think executive team are all very smart guys. They are working here. We want to share idea. We want to communicate each other to see like what different point of view. Well, when we're thinking about the same problems. So I will actively listening to all the other as executive teams members' idea and also make effective communication, like maybe weekly meeting or maybe schedule one-on-one to talk about the thought or idea that I am towarding. So I think communication, active listening, and I think we all kind of even we are executive team, we all can be a friend. We can share our great ideas easily.
Thank you so much, Tim. Shubham, you have the floor.
Do you mind repeating the question once again for me, please?
Absolutely, yes. In short, just to summarize it, how do you plan to make sure that you're making yourself held to account to the Senate and you're also making available public information and information that is necessary for the Senate to effectively hold you to account as a member of the executive?
I think to ensure accountability to the Senate and like provide them with necessary information, I would like first focus on few like key strategies. I believe in open communication. Regular updates are very crucial, and I would also like propose weekly or bi-weekly meetings where like we can discuss the budget, funding requests, and like any other financial matters. And also, I would like implement a transparent reporting system. This would like involve sharing detailed financial reports that like break down how funds are like allocated and spent. And by making this information easily accessible, it like not only helps the Senate holders accountable, but also like builds trust within the student body. And I think it is important to like like foster a culture of accountability with the executive team as well. And I would like encourage team members to like share their progress and like challenges openly, like which can be like discussed in the meetings. And I'd also like make sure to highlight the AS funding guide. Like during our discussions, this guide is like very vital for supporting student organizations and like maybe ensuring everyone understands that it can lead to more informed funding requests and decisions.
All right. Thank you so much, Shubham. Faisal,
Yeah, thank you both for attending this interview and giving such great answers. The question I have for you is something that you may have heard before in some of the previous steps, and that's what ideas do you have for revenue generating schemes that the associated student should conduct?
Shubham, you have the floor.
Uh, that's a that's a great question. So, one idea like could be to like host more events like to cater both students and the local community. For example, like we could organize workshops and maybe speaker series or like even cultural festivals that like not only engage students but also like draw in local businesses as sponsors. And another aspect could be like to leverage our alumni network. Since I've had experience expanding alumni engagement, we could like set up a mentorship program that like charges a nominal fee for students and like who also want one-on-one guidance from successful alumni. And this could like not only like generate revenue but also like strengthen the ties between current students and alumni. So we could like also look into partnerships with local businesses for student discounts or like loyalty programs, and by negotiating like deals that benefit students while providing commission to like ASUCSD, we could like create a steady revenue stream. And I think it's a great way to like support local businesses and like give students a little extra financial relief. And also I believe that in utilizing technology, like we could develop an app or like platform that like offers services like tutoring or like academic support, like charging a fee for like access. And like this not only generates revenue, but also like provides maybe valuable resources to students. So these are like key things which I think is very beneficial like for the revenue generation.
Thank you so much. Tim, you have the floor.
I think for this question, there are lots of different schemes. For example, we can just do more events, charge admission, selling the product like something like with about associate student like a logo, uh, something like that. And more thing we can do is like the sponsor. We can looking for restaurant to get a discount card. The student purchase the card with like, for example, $50, and they get discount for lots of San Diego local community discount, etc. And we also can do more about fundraising to help the local market to sell their product and get some commissions. We also can do donation from alumni when we gather academic or academic alumni event. And I think those are some basic ways to generate profit. But in my understanding, I think only if only AS is working, like hosting event, that's too much time consuming and also is take too much work. We can put more effort on how to co-host with other student organizations on the campus, also other departments to see if there's more opportunity we can work together. For example, if there's a great like Chinese cultural arts festival, we can like, for example, we can give some funds, and then after the charge admission, we can get some commission as well. I think there are lots of ways that we can generate profit, not just by uh, hosting an original event, but also there's a way we can benefit other organizations as well, and also we can generate profit and make this UC San Diego community become better and strong.
All right. Thank you so much, Tim. I will be asking the last question for the both of you today. And I just want to mention that you two did a great job addressing the student org aspect of the CFO role. But the other and most crucial, equally crucial role of the CFO role is monitoring and overseeing the Department of Enterprises and Services. And so my question to you both is, can you please describe the Enterprises and Services Office and what they do, and what idea of a new enterprise or service would you want to open in an Office of Enterprises and Services? Tim, you have the floor.
May I know like what more detail about the Office of Enterprise before answering the question?
Yeah, so I said describe the Office of Enterprises and Services as it is the second office you oversee as CFO, and share an idea of an enterprise or a service you would open in the Enterprises and Services Office.
Okay, so I think what we do. So are we focusing on generating more profit in this case for enterprising service?
I'm sorry, I can't answer that question for you.
Okay, yeah. So I would say first that we need to just have different office that help students to, if students have any idea they want to contribute to the community, we have a place to support. So I think we have funding for the enterprise office as well. We can maybe think about to invest in some of the idea that students bring up. They want to do maybe to help better serve students, and maybe we can always have a new new group of team to think about how the enterprise things work. Yeah, just that.
All right, thank you so much, Tim. Shabam, I'm going to restate the question. Can you please describe the Office of Enterprises and Services as it will be the second office you oversee as CFO, And can you please describe an idea for a new enterprise or service that would be an addition to the office?
That's a great question. So, the Office of Enterprise and Services really plays a crucial role in supporting student initiatives and like generating revenue for ASUCSD. And it's all about like fostering entrepreneurship and like innovation among students. So if it helps like students bring their ideas to life, like whether that's like launching a new service or maybe a product like that benefits the community, or like even creating revenue generating projects like that could like support student organizations. So if I were to like add a new enterprise or service to the office, I would like suggest establishing like an innovation incubator maybe. This would like be dedicated. This would be like a dedicated space where students like can come together, brainstorm, develop, and like pitch their ideas. So it could like also include resources like mentorship, like from alumni or local business leaders, workshops or like workshops on like business planning, and even access to like funding for promising projects. We could also like incorporate a collaborative platform where like students can connect with each other and with like industry experts. And I would say it could like be a great way to like foster networking and collaboration. And you might even like discover the next big startup idea right here on campus. Who knows? So maybe in a nutshell, like the Office of Enterprise and Services like could really benefit from an innovation incubator like that encourages creativity, collaboration, and like entrepreneurship among students.
All right, thank you so much. I believe at this time we'll now open the floor for public questions. All right, I was just made aware that we need to take a couple minutes to go through the questions first. So for everyone here, please enjoy your sandwich and sit tightly. All right. Are both candidates still here? Okay. So, in the public forum, we had several questions, but due to time, we're only going to ask a couple of them. So for this question, I believe Shabam, you'll be answering first. One of the members of the public asked, how will you determine which clubs receive funding and which do not? You have 2 minutes.
Sure. So when it comes to like determining which clubs receive funding and which don't, I think it's really important to like have a clear and fair process in place. So, first off, like I would start by looking at the club's purpose and how it like aligns to the goals of ASUCSD. And like clubs like that focus on enhancing student life, promoting maybe community engagement, or like supporting academic growth. That should be like always definitely be prioritized first. So next, I would also like want to see how well a club has demonstrated its impact in the past. For example, like if they have organized successful events or have had a like strong record of engaging students, that would like weigh heavily in their favor. So maybe it's all about showing that funding will be used effectively to benefit a large number of students. And additionally, I think it is crucial to like have regular meetings with club representatives and like to discuss their needs and any change in like funding requirements, which like this not only like helps in building relationships, but also like ensures that we are being responsive to their needs.
Thank you so much, Shubham. Tim, you have the floor. Do you want me to restate the question?
Yeah.
All right. The question is, how will you determine which clubs receive funding and which do not?
First of all, I will just determine if both organization clubs fit the requirements 100% through the AS funding guideline. If this is the case, we will move on to the next step to see. I think all the clubs that they are meet the requirements should get the fund. This is what we're supposed to do. But if in case we are really limited in funding and we really need to choose one from those two, I think what we do is um, I was not looking for the size of the organization or class, more about what they trying to do, what event is for, how the accessibility is the event for. Is this is open for just one department or is welcome all undergraduate population at the campus, and I also determine like what amount of money they need, and I just gonna schedule one-on-one to the leader asking like the whole from the beginning to the end of the event and what the purpose of the event to make sure it align with the AI's mission value. And if both clubs are really great at this point, I think what I can do is to talk to the executive teams and we're gonna discuss those cases individually and to see how everyone thinks, and we might have a vote at the end to see where the fund will goes between those two organizations.
Thank you so much. For the last question of public input, a member of the public asked, Chief Financial Officer as a position on the executive suites is bound to have conflicts. What conflicts have you dealt with in previous positions, and how were you able to mediate them? Tim, you have the floor.
Yeah, so I did happen a lot of time for this special thing. Yeah, back to my presidency at the USDC SSA. I do have a conflict with the VPs and the director of the event planning when we're doing the Spring Festival Gala about what actor we're gonna invite. So I think that's really big thing at that time because it determined about the amount of money that we trying to pay and the impact of the event. So first of all, I really didn't I just want them to follow my idea because that's what I think. But finally, I think this is not the case because I sometimes didn't see the other point of on. So after that thing, I just really learned that I need to listen carefully with others, and every opinions matter. So while dealing with the conflict, I just trying to talk to the person first, talk to him like, oh, why you think the option B is better compared to option A? And we talk about 30 minutes about why we both make the decision. I think after the communication, I just feel like he is correct, and there are a lot of things that I really didn't notice. So I think the best way to resolve a conflict is to communicate first, because that way helps people to understand better. And because I think people give different opinions or bring up conflict because they really care about the thing. They really matters. So communication make we both being more trust and being more understandable. So I think I will do more about communication well if any conflict is happening, and if necessary, I will invite other like board member or people to come inside.
Alright,
And
I'm so sorry. That is time.
okay.
Thank you so much, Tim, for that answer. Shubham, you have the floor. The question is, CFO, the Chief Financial Officer, as a position on the executive suite, is bound to have conflicts. What conflicts have you dealt with in previous positions, and how were you able to mediate them? You have 2 minutes.
Absolutely. So I can share my experience with conflicts and how I have handled them. In my role as the director of alumni relations at UCST, I often like find myself navigating conflicts related to like budget allocations and event planning. Like for instance, when organizing networking events, there were times like when different departments had like competing interests for the same resources. So what I learned is that the open communication is key. I made it to a point to like set up one-on-one meetings with the stakeholders, like to really understand their perspectives and needs. And like maybe by actively listening and showing that I valued their input, I could like bring a more collaborative environment. So I think this not only like helped in resolving immediate conflicts, but also like built trust among the team members. For example, like during a budgeting discussion, I had to like mediate between two departments like that were vouching for funding for their initiatives. So instead of like just presenting my view, I facilitated a joint meeting like where both sides could like express their priorities. So this allowed us to like find a common ground and like ultimately led to a solution like that benefited both departments. So in a summary, like my approach to like conflict resolution is like rooted in communication and collaboration. So by bringing like open dialogue and like involving others like when necessary, I can like mediate conflicts effectively, ensuring that we align our goals with the values of the organization. So I think this experience would like serve me well as CFO, like we're managing diverse interests and ensuring transparency will be very crucial.
All right, thank you so much. That does conclude our time now for all the questions, Senate questions, as well as public questions. Right behind me, we'll have the public input form for voting. So for any members of the public, please scan this QR code and share your evaluations on our two lovely candidates here today. And can we put our hands together and give them a round of applause? Thank you so much for Tim. Thank you so much, Shabam. Thank you for making this time today, and you should hear shortly. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Can we get our two DPO candidates, Aries Cole and Ziad El-Banani, at the
many people as possible through those recruitment efforts.
Thank you. And I'll just repeat this question one more time since it's pretty long. Recruitment is an essential component of our association. As Chief Personnel Officer, you will have to work alongside the Chief Communications Officer to decide on methods of recruitment as well as the onboarding processes. How do you plan to build this working relationship and splitting of recruitment responsibilities during AS Recruitment Week? Aries, you have the floor for 2 minutes.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that relationship with the CCO is extremely important. So just as soon as getting into the role, making sure you're building that relationship is very important. And then like methods of actually doing the recruitment, because recruitment is essential. Recruitment is really the like building blocks of the public service the AS does. So really getting materials out to not just library walk, things like that, but getting to college councils, getting to res lifes, getting to resource centers, getting to student orgs is absolutely essential, because those students who are involved in those things are more likely to be involved in things like associated students, but that's also how you're going to get that broader reach. And then obviously working with the CCO to see what is advisable, what you can communicate, and what is a little bit, let's say, iffy. Yeah, I think that really those are the main points that you want to hammer in. Hit those 4 groups, and I think that AS will recruit the best possible candidate.
Thank you both. The next question is, what is your understanding of the Associated Students Fellowship? And as this is a responsibility under the Office of Personnel Affairs, what would be your priorities for ensuring the fellowship is fulfilling? You each have 2 minutes, starting with Aries.
Yeah, thank you for that question. My understanding of the fellowship is it gets first-year students involved in associated students. The fellows either go and work in different offices where they'll do functions that are essential to the office that the other staff members are either performing and they'll work under them, or they'll perform other activities. And then there are some fellows that are first-year senators, and they represent the constituency of first years within the Senate. To make sure that's fulfilling, just really making sure that these fellows are valued, making sure that they're trained properly. This is what this office does. This is how you can represent first years as your constituency for the first year senators. I think that that's a really important program. It trains the first years that are going to be in associated students for the rest of their college careers. And it really broadens the horizon of people coming into college. Hey, I'm a first year student. Everyone I'm mingling, people I know are going to be interested, and that's really going to broaden those horizons in that way. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ziad, you have the floor.
Thank you. So my understanding of the fellowship program is it's a program that we have that allows, again, as Aries said, first-year students to get involved in student government. I understand that it is a non-paid or stipended position with the initially a requirement of 5 hours a week commitment. In the few previous years, the fellows have used kind of a ranking system to decide which offices they're most interested in participating in, and then matched with one of the offices. I myself see a few discrepancies in the fellowship program that do need to be addressed. For example, it is not as active or consistent as I would like it to be. And that is in terms of the fellows having to do more project. We didn't see much of that in the past few years, so we need the fellows to be more involved in their projects. We also need them to be more active in the association. One other thing is I don't want the fellowship program to be a siloed position. I'd rather have the fellows be engaged with multiple offices across the association so they can gain a broader understanding of what they would like to do. And that way we can increase our retention numbers, because there is a very high retention year-over-year number for people who start as fellows. And we need to make sure that we can increase that by having them involved in multiple offices and broaden their horizons of what they think they're more interested in. Also, for example, for me, I started as an international censor and never thought that I would be interested in the concerts and events scene until I tried it out and ended up loving it. So I think it's important to have cross-office collaborations between different offices to ensure these fellows know the different ins and outs of the association, as well as give them a very thorough onboarding in terms of these are the different offices we have, and this is what each office does. And then you can even reuse that training and onboarding materials for all first-year hires, that way giving everyone a better understanding of the association. Lastly, I think it's really important to appoint a fellowship director who is consistently just taking on that role throughout the year to make sure they can coordinate the program underneath the Office of Personnel Affairs, so that the fellows are taken good care of and that they have a good experience in AS and are more likely to return in the future years.
Thank you both. The next question is a hypothetical. During AS onboarding, offices are required to communicate with the Chief Personnel Officer with proof of forming a hiring committee, following the AS hiring rubric and developing applications and grading accordingly. If you were suspicious that an office may have not followed the AS hiring guidelines in their hiring process, what would your protocol of investigation be? You each have 2 minutes, starting with Ziad.
So hiring is a very touchy and interesting subject in the association, and there are very clear guidelines in our standing documents about hiring, and it is important that all offices do follow these procedures outlined. I think the first step would be to communicate with that office about their hiring procedures and gain a better understanding of how they went about the hiring process, and then compare that with the procedures that were set forth. I think a good part to be proactive about that, to even avoid that from happening, is to review the hiring procedures themselves to make sure they accommodate the offices, and that we reduce the amount of bias, including increasing blind reviews and ensuring well in advance that any people on hiring committees submit conflict of interest disclosures and recusals if there is a conflict of interest. And that will avoid that problem. But once that problem does come up, I think it's important to look into the very clear rubrics that were used and to see whether the assessments made were in alignment with the rubrics, or they were made due to, for example, personal opinions or things that happen outside the scope of the interview process itself. And then to elevate that complaint to the judicial board in the case that is necessary. And then they can decide on, for example, our standing documents say they are the final say on whether probation happens and the length of that probation, as long as it's under 21 days. So in that case, if there's an egregious, something egregious happens in terms of hiring, it is important to elevate that concern and use our internal stakeholders to make sure they're also a part of this process, and to also be clear in our communication at the beginning of the year of what our expectations are for hiring, so that we can be proactive about these hiring mistakes.
Thank you. And Aries, would you like me to repeat the question, or are you good?
Yeah, could you repeat it, please?
Yeah. So again, this is a hypothetical question. During AS onboarding, offices are required to communicate with the Chief Personnel Officer with proof of forming a hiring committee, following the AS hiring rubric and developing applications and grading accordingly. If you were suspicious that an office may have not followed the AS hiring guidelines in their hiring process, what would your protocol of investigation be?
Yeah, thank you. And Ziad had a lot of good stuff in that answer. So this has to be really dealt with beforehand. So the biggest thing is making sure that each office knows what their responsibilities are in hiring, forming the hiring committee, making sure that they know that their members of that committee cannot have these conflicts of interest, things like that. Then this way you're taking preventative measures and things like that don't happen. But in this case, what I would do is I would schedule a meeting with the AVP of the office. It may be members of the hiring committee, walking through how they did their processes, overviewing the rubric. And at this point, I think it would be clear whether or not they've followed the procedures. If not, then obviously disciplinary action would have to be advanced. But it could just be a misunderstanding. And if nobody had been hired at that point, that's fine. They can adjust. But if hires had already been made, then those disciplinary actions would have to be taken. Thank you.
Thank you both. The next question is another hypothetical. 2 office staff are having a dispute stemming from a project. Sorry, let me repeat that. 2 office staff are having a dispute stemming from a project the office is currently working on. Both staff members are crucial to the success of the project, but are unsure of how to move forward with their working relationship. How would you assist in this conflict so that both staff can be successful in their office? You each have 2 minutes, starting with Aries.
Yeah, I think that this is a very realistic situation. So I think that conflicts arise a lot. When I become aware of this, I would immediately schedule a meeting with each of them individually, see if this relationship could potentially be like reconciled, and then I would try to schedule a broader meeting, maybe with other members of the staff, and then each other to see what can be done. If there's no way that they can work together, there's other alternatives, seeing if they can do their work in a separate way. If not, then I think that that's really a tough situation in terms of what to do, working with AVP to see how we can still have these goals getting accomplished. I think that that's the number one thing. If the relationship is hostile, then I think that really just working something out to where they wouldn't have to deal with each other, because that's going to put a hamper on not just their relationship, but the entire association.
Thank you. And Ziad, would you like me to repeat the question, or are you good?
Yes, please, sir.
Okay. Again, hypothetical. 2 office staff are having a dispute stemming from a project the office is currently working on. Both staff members are crucial to the success of the project, but are unsure of how to move forward with their working relationship. How would you assist in this conflict so that both staff can be successful in their office?
Perfect. Thank you so much. So yeah, I think internal conflicts within an office is something that happens a lot, and there has to be a very clear pathway to having restorative practices that ensure that those conflicts are settled. I think for this, it's something I'm very comfortable doing, drawing from my experience as a resident assistant for the past 2 years, where I would say 90% of my job is mediating conflict between residents at Seventh College. So I think using that experience to be able to mediate that conflict, starting with having one-on-one meetings with them individually before we put them in a room together to have the group discussion to ensure that both perspectives are heard, as well as having a neutral discussion where I'm able to hear both sides without taking sides or making any of the parties feel like I am being biased in my discussion, and utilize all my skills and from the training that I received as an RA to mediate that conflict. I think it's also very important to leverage our campus resources in times like these to connect these staffers with other resources that can help them grow professionally, as well as deal with conflicts internally, such as our Office of the Ombuds, who themselves do conflict mediation training for people who go through that exact situation, as well as leverage our internal pro staff, who is a great resource, who would be able to step in at times and make sure that they can assist in this mediation, and also give them alternatives to still pursuing a successful project, because these things can be overcome. I think what's also very tricky is dealing with any hierarchy in the office. If these are 2 staffers with different positions in that hierarchy of the office, to ensure that that power dynamic doesn't influence the relationship, and that they're able to go through this as equal partners instead of someone abusing their position in the office, and then deal with that internally, and if not, have to go through the next steps of seeing how we can move forward with the office.
Thank you. Thank you both so much for answering those questions. We're now going to move on to Senate question time. Would any senators in the association like to ask questions? Daniel?
Thank you very much to both of you for being present here and giving such great answers so far. I just wanted to ask, in relation to conflicts of interest, what specific measures are you planning to institute to guarantee a robust and transparent system that prevents the exploitation of possible conflicts of interest and ethical issues, and any improper biases, especially during the hiring process, but also throughout the entire sort of duration of a person's time in associated students? I understand you helped to write some of the policies around personnel policies. I did see that there was sort of this general language saying that there should not be biases, but I did not see any specific language about specific policy guidelines that people should follow, especially during the hiring process. So for both of you, is this something you would want to include in future revisions, and how would you go about implementing policy? Thank you.
We'll start off with Aries, and then we'll go to Ziad. Each of you have 2 minutes. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that like an increased specificity in these policies regarding biases is important. Although within hiring, within everything in life, biases are inevitable. So what you're really gonna have to do is, if there's members of the hiring committee who know any of the candidates, they're gonna have to recuse themselves from reviewing that candidate. On top of that, you're never going to absolve yourself from all conflicts of interests. But doing the best you can, educating every, member of that hiring committee on what they can do to acknowledge their biases is going to be important. But I do think that there's things that could be implemented, such as having a blind review where names are redacted, as well as specific groups or organizations are redacted. That way, the candidates are getting reviewed on a really blank slate. People are not going to see their names. They're not going to see what they're involved in. They're just going to see name, organization, and that's going to remove a lot of the biases in those processes.
Thank you, and we'll go to Ziad. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. So yeah, thank you for the question. And yeah, as you mentioned, I did write the entire code of ethics section in the personal procedures of assigned documents, and at the time, it was an attempt to address the broad ethics violations that I was seeing in association. So there's definitely room to go into more detail about specific things such as hiring and conflicts of interest. As I said in my previous answer, for every single hiring application, there has to be a conflict of interest disclosure form that is sent out and submitted by the people on the application, as well as the blind reviews with redacted information, as Aries said. I think one way, I think policy is not the only solution and should not be seen as a solitary solution. I think there has to be proactive and a proactive approach from the CPO during the initial summer training, where all members of the association go through unconscious bias training, as well as improve the training modules to address this specifically. And then when it comes to actual hiring, have recusals from those who are associated with the people applying, specifically if it is someone who was previously either a staffer underneath their office or have a very close relationship with them. Again, this is something that is easier to enforce in theory than in practice. So in practice, you need to take the immediate steps to give that training, and then have your backup plans to, such as the great implementation of the SHOC committee to review those applications and ensure that all the grading that is done does not reflect some type of bias that is, when you compare it to the other grades, seems to be extremely inflated. And then that is when an investigation has to happen. But I think if we build the trust from the beginning of the year and improve the training, then it's not always just about punitive policy, but it's about restoring that from the initial steps. Thank you.
Thank you both for those answers. Would any other senators or members of the association like to ask a question? Senator Bautista.
Yeah, I'm going to repeat the same question that I gave the CFOs. But, just being on the executive team, obviously that comes with a lot of responsibility and time. So what are your guys', plans for time management, either historically or going into next year? And how can you ensure that you'll be proactive in your role of responding to emails, responding to Slack messages, things like that? And just what your overall schedule for next year will look like.
Sorry. We will go with Ziad first, and then we'll go with Aries. You each have 2 minutes.
So yeah, I think time management is obviously a crucial thing. I can say that for me, it is definitely one of my strongest strengths. I'm currently someone who I think holds maybe 5 or 6 positions on this campus and is still able to maintain a 4.0 GPA and do all of my responsibilities to the fullest extent that I can. For example, during Song God Week, I think I clocked in over 60 hours just for Song God Festival while still being an RA and doing midterms. So I think time management is something that you develop over the years, and it's something that I've been able to do very proficiently. I think getting back to people is not going to be a problem at all. I think to improve with time management, it's also important that you surround yourself with a team who is able to support you. And that is why I think it's important that we instate a fellowship director for the CPO position, as well as another position that I had in mind was creating an executive Senate liaison who is able to bridge the gap between the Senate and executive officers officers to improve our culture of mutual communication and keeping everyone in the association in good standing with one another, and that will help bridge the gap in that communication between all members of the Senate. I think the goal for me in everything that I do is to make sure we avoid the problems before they arise. But for me personally, time management would never be an issue. I think it's important to have your priorities straight, and especially with a position like this, a lot of things that happen are time sensitive, including violations of our student conduct code. And as someone who serves currently as well on the community standards board for SAGE, I'm very well aware with the conduct process and know how time sensitive that is, and it's important to be able to manage your time to address those things when they come up.
Thank you. And Aries, you have 2 minutes.
Oh, sorry. Thank you for the question, Senator. Yeah, I think time management is extremely important. Thus far, historically, I'm doing pretty well with managing my time. I have served in various roles, just as Ziad, and I'm managing my time pretty well to this point. I served in the executive committee of the Warren College Student Council, which was very time heavy. On top of that, I manage my time with a Google Calendar. Almost everything I do is on that calendar. So I know where I'm going, what I have time to do, if I can fit things in, and that's done wonders for me. But yeah, I think that that's really something that's important, and I'll continue improving on it. But I think that at this point I'm pretty good at it. Thank you.
Thank you both. Are there any other senators that would like to ask a question? Senator Singh.
Thank you, William. In terms of the communications, I know obviously this is something you have to work with your CCO as well, but how do you plan to make sure that there's actual communication and sort of a connection between college councils and AS personnel? Because right now I feel there is a significant divide there. There's not enough communication. How do you plan to remedy this?
We'll start off with Aries, and then we'll go to Ziad. You each have 2 minutes.
Yeah, I think that relationship between the college councils and between AS is extremely important. I think the biggest thing is that as associate students, making sure that that is a priority. There was a time in this past year where the LCC had some issues with that relationship. We had a meeting with certain members of the AS executive team, and there was no solution that we came to, and it was a little disheartening. So making sure that communication is not only coming from the college senators, but also directly from either having some sort of summary of these Senate meetings, something like that, relayed directly to the college council presidents and the college council secretaries and VP admins, so that they're aware and they can inform the councils of what's going on. Additionally, just more collaboration is absolutely essential. I think that one thing that I've noted that's very important is that the senators are responsible for attending Senate meetings, attending council meetings, and doing their projects, and there's no real tracking of that. So I'd work with the EVP to intensely track: are senators attending council, are senators attending their Senate, or are they attending assembly, and what are they doing for their projects? Are their projects getting done? And relaying this information back and forth from not just the AVP of college affairs, but also each of the college presidents. Developing that close relationship is really something that I want to emphasize in this role.
Thank you. Ziad, you have the floor.
Yeah, so I think communication between the college councils and the associate students is extremely important for many reasons. But as I mentioned earlier, one of the positions that I would love to instate is the Executive Senate liaison, who will be tasked with bridging that gap of communication. And as part of their task will be to communicate with the AVP of College Affairs to give consistent updates on what is happening in the Senate and vice versa, and that we can be communicated to the College Council. I think Aries mentioned more collaboration, and that's very important. But to me, it's not just more collaboration, but more visibility as well. I think it's very important that we motivate one another, that we support college councils with their initiatives, and that they support us with our initiatives. And then we have a shared sense of ownership and pride of the work that we're doing for the student body. So there isn't that sense of division between the college councils and the student body. And then again, enforce more attendance requirements. As of right now, I think we have 10.5 excused absences and 3.5 unexcused absences. But we need to go into more detail because there, for example, college tenants have to attend 2 meetings a week, not just one. So it has to be more specific to how we can motivate those college tenants to actually attend both and not have a one-size-fits-all approach to engagement to ensure that we bridge the gap between us and college councils. I think this needs to be applied to all of our campus partners, not just for college councils, because there is a lot of exclusivity when it comes to AS, and it's like a bubble that we do need to make more visible. I think another thing that I would love to implement is anti-exclusivity policies. And I think we're unable to bridge the gap between us and external partners until we're able to bridge the gap between us and ourselves within the association. So it's important for us to have at least monthly cross-office check-ins, as well as check-ins between college councils and the association, where we're able to communicate with one another and ensure that we have anti-exclusivity policies so that we avoid the development of cliques or cult-like behavior in specific offices that ends up creating a rift between us and
Time.
others.
Thank you so much. Apologies, I don't mean to cut you off. Do we have any more questions from anyone in the association? Madam President.
Just like out of curiosity, I wanted to ask because the CPO role is fairly new. I think this is like the 3rd CPO that we've had, but as the role kind of continues to develop and progress every year, I'm curious to know what skills and prior experiences do you think would be crucial in aiding you throughout your time as CPO if selected? I don't know who goes first.
I believe Ziad goes first, and then Aries. You each have 2 minutes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Madam President, for that question. I think I have a wide range of experience when it comes to everything that has to do with the Office of Personnel Affairs directly or indirectly, including firsthand working on legislation and policies for the Office of Personnel Affairs and improving our standards when it comes to tracking the performance and ethical behaviors of our association, as well as engaging myself with every part of the association and that broad experience. I think my experience has put me in a unique position where I know exactly what needs to be fixed and things in our governance documents that are overlooked. For example, one thing I can name right now is we have in our personnel procedures a travel code of conduct that it says before anyone goes on an AS sponsored trip, they have to sign a travel agreement. When I went on an AS sponsored trip, I never signed it. So I think there's a lot of things in our procedures that are overlooked, and I'm in a position that I'm able to see those things because of my 2 years in the association and be able to address them efficiently. And working at the Senate, at the with executive offices and in our different offices has allowed me to understand the policies on a broader level and see the different ways in which different parts of the association interact with one another, as well as working with SAGE on the community standards boards, understand the other perspective of conduct, as well as being an RA allows me to understand the other perspective of conflict mediation and working in group settings and creating training modules that are long-lasting and impact building.
Thank you very much. Aries, you have the floor.
Yeah, Madam President, are you able to repeat the question?
Yeah, so given that the CPO role is still in development and progressing every year, it's like the 3rd CPO that we have. The next one would be the 4th. What skills and prior experiences do you think would be crucial in supporting you throughout your time as CPO?
Yeah, thank you. So as I touched on in my introduction, I've served on the Warren College Student Council in various roles. I think that a lot of what I've done actually has been working directly with people, hiring people, things like that, which has been, in my opinion, the most transformative thing that I've seen come out of the council. On top of that, I've served on hiring committees for assistant dean and coordinator of student activities within Warren, as well as I'm a RA in Warren College, like Ziad is in 7th. Yeah, a lot of conflict mediation in those roles. I think another one of my strengths that I would have in this role is I'm able to be very neutral because I've never served in associated students. I don't have a lot of conceived notions of anyone really, and I think that would allow me to really maintain the neutrality that is important in so many of the CPO's job duties. So I think that that's going to be one of my strengths, my biggest strengths, because that's so important to this position.
Thank you both very much. We are going to wrap up the AS Senator questions just for time reasons. With that being said, we will be going on to public input questions. We have two right here. The first question is, we have seen conflicts on campus regarding the line between free speech and hate speech. As CPO, how do you manage protecting freedom of speech and bias in critical issues that affect minorities, such as discrimination, divestment, and DEI measures? We'll start off with Aries, and then we'll go to Ziad. You each have 2 minutes.
Yeah, I think within the CPO role, what I'm really focused on is ensuring that the personnel of associated students are succeeding, making sure that they're serving the student body. Really, those policies regarding free speech on campus, those are things that other members of the associated students are going to deal with. So supporting them in whatever is lawful is going to be what's going to happen. But I don't think that this role is going to be too involved with those.
Thank you. Ziad, you have the floor for 2 minutes.
Yeah, thank you for that question. I think these are all very important things that do need to be focused on by the association. I think at the same time, it's important to understand the role of the chief personnel officer and the restrictions on how much the CPO is able to do when it comes to addressing issues like that publicly. I think the first line of the CPO responsibilities in all our standing documents is to maintain neutrality. Maintain neutrality in our roles. So I think that's very important. And with all these things, my goal is to ensure the wellness of our members of the association who do engage in stuff like that and need the support of the chief personnel officer. And that is why I think we have to as well restructure all of our evaluation rubrics to have more wellness related indicators, because in times like these, it is important to consider that there are extenuating circumstances and external forces that do impact our student population and specifically our senators and assembly members. So it's important for us internally to be able to provide that support system for them so that they are able to be the advocates that they were elected to be and to handle these things publicly. And for us, it's about maintaining that culture internally that allows them to thrive and increasing their professional development tracks to include things like free speech advocacy, like training modules related to all the different topics that you brought up. So the goal is to prepare them for success and to be the backbone for them when it comes to supporting their wellness and their success on this campus, while being very clear with my specific role as the CPO.
Thank you both. Okay, we'll move on to the next question, which is, how will you ensure that your personal relationships do not influence your ability to handle issues objectively and fairly in your role as CPO? We will start off with Aries, and then we'll go to Ziad. You have the floor for 2 minutes.
Yeah, I think that what I emphasized earlier in my neutrality is going to be extremely important. I've never served on associated students, so many of the faces are going to be new. But on top of that, I've served in a lot of roles where I've had to be neutral. I've had to give unfortunate news to close friends of mine. So I don't think that this will be really a big problem of mine. If I do notice myself having any sort of bias, I'll take a step back and say, this is this is the antithesis of what this role is supposed to be. Neutrality is really the most important thing in this role. How can I be neutral? Is there anyone I can delegate certain responsibilities to that will be more neutral than I? I'll ask myself those questions and come to the appropriate conclusions, because that is really the most important thing within this position.
Thank you. Next, we'll move to Ziad. You have 2 minutes. And let me know if you'd like me to repeat the question or if you're good.
Yeah, you can repeat it, please. Thank you.
How will you ensure that your personal relationships do not influence your ability to handle issues objectively and fairly in your role as CPO? You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Yeah, I think remaining objective and fair is a crucial part of the position because of how many sensitive things we deal with, as well as you have to be the role model when it comes to these things, because you cannot be the one that enforces policy and expects others to abide by it if you yourself are infringing on those policies yourselves. This is the same way that I go about being an RA. It's important to have that balance between having personal relationships with your residents while also maintaining that professional boundary where they don't take advantage of your friendliness and still see you as someone who's there to enforce policy. I knew of an RA once who partied with his residents and he got fired. So it's not really, a smart thing to do when you yourself are not the role model that you're supposed to be. So I think in the association, it's important to set a good example and remember that you are dealing with a large responsibility and you were entrusted to take care of the association where you are handle again $9 million of student fees, and you have a huge voter turnout that comes out to entrust the people in this association to do their job. And for you, you have to be there to support the student body in their decision and make sure that you are doing what you can to remain fair in all of your decisions, and just have that boundary where you can always take a step back and remain professional, because at the end of the day, this is a job and you do get paid for it, and you have a moral obligation before anything else to uphold the highest levels of being ethical in your position. And that's why I wrote the entire code of ethics, because I saw these exact problems proliferate in our association, and I wanted to address it as a senator. And if I address it as a senator, then I definitely will address it as CPO. Thank you.
Thank you both. The last question is actually for me. It's a question to both of you. The question is, how would you improve the appointment process next year? What measures would you take to make the process quicker and more transparent? We'll start off with Ziad, and then we'll go to Aries. You each have 2 minutes.
To improve the appointment process next year, I think it's very important to start early and have a more collaborative effort where everyone is kept in the loop and very clear on their responsibilities, and to have it so that we also should create well in advance a digital repository for appointment processes in general, so that every year the group has something to refer to when it comes to hiring. Something as simple as a digital hub where they have access to previous year's appointment processes and are able to refer to it every year, so that they are prepared well in advance with the procedure, as well as clearly outline from the start the responsibilities of each person in the hiring committee, because many times that is very blurred, and members of appointment committees aren't sure what their role is and who's supposed to take charge on setting up interviews, who's supposed to take charge of communicating, sending out emails. So I think making it very clear with the expectations from every member of the appointment process from the start is important. Setting a very clear timeline to abide by when it comes to setting up those interviews and sending out rejection and acceptance emails, as well as setting up public interviews, as well as having very clear communication with the Senate Hiring Oversight Committee, so that they themselves are also looped in, and setting up guidelines to ensure engagement by the hiring committee themselves to attend those interviews, and to have procedures set in place to act in cases where members of the committees themselves are not attending interviews or hiring without being engaged in the process fully. So make sure we take the steps necessary well in advance to prepare the committee for success, so that they can hire people who are then able to be successful.
Thank you. And Aries, you have the floor.
Yeah, 100% everything that Ziad just said is, vital. On top of that, just making sure that ease of access is really eased for applicants. I think that having the application on sort of a separate website area is very confusing. So I'd work with the appropriate channels within the association to really remedy that, as well as making sure that the applicants are aware of the timelines that are implemented. When can they expect to be interviewed? When can they expect to have a public interview if that's required for the position? These things would just make the applicant's life a lot easier, and it would also allow for an easier process. On top of this, making sure that descriptions of positions are listed in some other places other than the governing documents. Having a separate sort of more consolidated place for this would be essentials for that. So I think that these measures would really be important. I think that the biggest thing is ease of access for the applicant is going to be a priority.
Thank you very much. That concludes our questions for today. Thank you very much to both of you guys for answering these questions, applying, going through a private interview, and now coming to a public interview. I'm wishing the best of luck for both of you. This is the public input evaluation survey, so we'd really love it if everyone or as many people as possible in the audience could fill out this survey. We do take this into consideration when scoring the applicant. So thank you guys so much, and we will take a couple-minute break before we move into the CCO interview.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Oopsies.
Oh, sorry, if there are any technical difficulties. It should be fixed now. introduce myself again. I'm William Simpson. I'm the president-elect, so I'll be serving as your AS Student Body President next year, and I will be answering questions for today. We'll start off with our own questions assembled by the hiring committee, and then we'll go to public input questions brought here from the audience. So with that being said, the first question is, please just introduce yourself and tell us about any relevant experience you have related to this role. You each have 2 minutes, starting with Abigail, and then we'll go to William. Abigail, you have the floor.
Hi, my name is Abigail, and some experience that is relevant to this position would be my experience as a reporter. Over the past 4 years, I was in my high school newspaper, and I was an intern for UC Berkeley's newspaper, the Daily Californian. And as a reporter, I have extensive experience interviewing, contacting, and synthesizing people's thoughts into a cohesive story. And as Chief Communications Officer, that ability to make person-to-person connections and to really be able to reach out to anyone, listen, and understand their perspective and where they're coming from, that experience is primarily what would prepare me for this role and be helpful.
Awesome. Thank you very much. We'll get on to William. You have the floor. You have 2 minutes. And let me know also if you want me to repeat any question.
Thank you. So yeah, hi everyone. I'm William Maheen. I'm a third-year student studying political science, international relations, and a double major in media industries and communications. I guess some experience that's kind of relevant for this position would be I was a first-year fellow within the Office of College Affairs. My first year, along with AVP of College Affairs, my second year, and then now the Chief Communications Officer for YES this year. And I think with those experiences through event programming and marketing, they really prepared me for this role throughout my time in those positions. I think through interacting with students at events, kind of getting to know more like their experiences and what like motivates them to come out to those events and what incentives they like to see to kind of working with students, whether it be in a town hall or kind of like promote an event. I think those experiences have really allowed me to flourish in this position and also get better insight into what the student body as a whole like to see from a student government, whose main purpose is student advocacy and making sure that students' voices are amplified, not just throughout the campus, but also to campus administrators as well. Thank you.
Thank you both for introducing yourselves. The next question is, as Chief Communications Officer, what is the AS brand and how would you improve brand awareness for the associated students? You each have 2 minutes, starting with William, and then we'll go to Abigail.
For sure. Thank you for the question. So I think for this one, it's a bit nuanced since I think oftentimes through our marketing practices, we prioritize kind of social media and just graphics. Something I've been trying to lean more into this year is making our social media more personable, so including more AS student voices and AS student faces that kind of see a more behind the scenes perspective of the association that I think is often overlooked or not shown as frequently. Additionally, though, with that, I've been working with fellow AS members on developing a podcast and other shows that can kind of bring more vibrancy to our kind of platform. Oftentimes I see other AS kind of accounts, both on the UC and CSU level, kind of doing similar things. And these tend to generate buzz and activity, both around their kind of events that they're trying to promote, but just generally on the social media platform. Moving aside from social media, though, I do want to focus more on kind of physical promotion on campus. I think that's something that AS is currently struggling to do. Oftentimes, if you're a student just walking down Library Walk, you don't really maybe know AS exists or kind of question what AS even stands for. So I think developing more kind of advertising practices that are both sustainable and more long-term can kind of better amplify AS is kind of present currently and really push that brand forward. The brand really just includes, in my eyes, kind of our logos, various different ones between the offices. Of course, Fluffy, our beloved mascot, who's featured in a variety of different manners and ways. Fluffy's always doing something. But yeah, I would say for sure, kind of going into that more physical advertising space, whether that's
promoting more things at bus stops, which I think worked really well for our kind of UPass election and our kind of general AS election that really got those votes out. We saw a 20% voter turnout this year, which we haven't had historically in a long time. So I think definitely that physical promotion is something I want to explore more.
Thank you very much. And Abigail, would you like me to repeat the question, or are you good?
I'm good, thank you.
You have 2 minutes. Thank you.
In my eyes, the AS's brand is about encouraging student advocacy and engagement. Primarily, the way that I would go about improving that, as William has already said, AS has a very strong social media presence. However, I do think making more person-to-person connections, starting with social media, things like doing day in the lives, Instagram takeovers, anything that would encourage students to see their representatives on a student-to-student level, not on a student-to-representative level. On a personal level, that would help advance the AS's brand. Outside of the social media space, since that is already a strategy that is being capitalized on, I would also encourage campus resource fairs and other physical activities that are not just tabling on Library Walk. When people table on Library Walk, everyone's busy, everyone has somewhere to go. And unless there's an incentive or a giveaway to stop, that doesn't promote long-term engagement and contact, long-term personal relationships with AS. So I would try to improve that with regular, whether that be campus resource fairs or newsletters or some sort of video series or content that both displays AS representatives as students, their personalities and their relationship to other students, as well as maintaining that professional aspect of here's what AS is doing for you, here are AS's initiatives and how they might benefit you. That would create a more sustainable long-term relationship than simply giving away items or encouraging students to come out on one specific occasion. Although, of course, that worked with the UPass initiative and a lot of other AS initiatives. I don't mean to diminish those success.
Thank you very much. The next question is, within your position, how would you expand on communication, outreach, and collaboration with cultural organizations on campus? You each have 2 minutes, starting with Abigail, and then we'll go to William. You have the floor.
I would expand AS's collaboration with cultural organizations by starting a regular, maybe newsletter or spotlight series, especially at the beginning of the year. There are already club fairs that exist, but having one specifically for cultural organizations would really encourage new students especially, but also all students to explore the cultural organizations on campus and encourage them to join, as well as create a strong relationship between these organizations and associated students. So creating opportunities to promote these organizations regularly throughout the year would help more than just the club fairs at the beginning of the year. Those spotlights throughout the year would create a stronger relationship and encourage more students to join. I would go about that by contacting cultural organizations and clubs, figuring out what sort of events they would like to put on throughout the year, and so that we would coordinate with them. And that's primarily how I would go about coordinating with cultural organizations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And William, would you like me to repeat the question, or are you good?
I'm good.
Thank you. You have 2 minutes.
For this one, I would say that developing more long-term relationships with the core organizations and cultural generally is something I think we need to, as an association, work on more. I think overall, developing more kind of resource fairs and sort of activities that can kind of highlight the different ways that students can get involved with those organizations and collaborate with them is essential. And I think as an association, we do that well. I've seen that at sort of Adelante events hosted by the president and other events throughout the year. But I think developing more like one-to-one, more personal relationships with them is something that we need to be pursuing more, because I think oftentimes we maybe reach out just for these one-off things and then we kind of trickle off or lose communication with them. So I think establishing more of a long-term form of communication should be something we should be pursuing. So I'd be working with at the Office of EDI to foster those relationships and those communications to better support those organizations on a more day-to-day level and not just kind of one-off events that maybe give them a surge of kind of involvement and supporters and students once a quarter, but then kind of don't really support them long term. So I think establishing more of those regular meetings with them through the Office of EDI is a great avenue to kind of foster better communications with them generally.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Moving on to the next question, which is, as CCO, you are constitutionally and traditionally required to work with groups like Campus Events, AS Graphic Studio, AS Public Relations, AVP of Concert and Events, AVP of Spirit and Athletics, and multiple enterprises of AS. How would you ensure proper support and leadership is distributed amongst the teams you both serve and advise? You each have 2 minutes, starting with William, and then we'll go to Abigail.
For sure, great question. So I think currently, as the CCO, I've developed this very well, I would say. I meet with, the AVPs under the Office of Communications regularly and provide support for them on a need-by-need basis, depending on kind of the events they're hosting or things they're trying to pass through the Senate. Along with the services, I am in contact with them on a weekly basis. I keep up with the needs of ASPS and also ASPR to kind of ensure kind of we're on the same page and putting our best foot forward, whether it's a marketing campaign or an event that's upcoming. So I think those kind of just one-to-one meetings help tremendously. But I also think kind of just informal check-ins, whether it be on Slack or just seeing them in the office also goes a long way. Checking in on a more personal basis can also help too, to just foster that more personable communication that we don't usually have in those one-to-one meetings because we're discussing various different matters, whether it's an event or a different activity. So I definitely think one-to-one meetings are essential. But additionally, I think providing more regular updates to them in assembly goes a long way as well. And in cabinet meetings, just generally, I also have practiced this year sending out more like formal updates to the association to kind of promote more or better internal communication practices that didn't exist previously, so that everyone's on the same page and no one's kind of unsure about what's going on or when an event is coming. For Trident Dine, I kind of did this regularly to kind of keep the association informed about the upcoming event and also provide support in case anyone had any questions.
Thank you. And then Abigail, would you like me to repeat that question or are you good?
Yes, please.
Okay. As CCO, you are constitutionally and traditionally required to work with groups like Campus Events, AS Graphic Studio, AS Public Relations, AVP of Concert and Events, AVP of Spirit and Athletics, and multiple enterprises of AS. How would you ensure proper support and leadership is distributed amongst the teams you both serve and advise? And you have 2 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. I would go about ensuring that proper support and leadership is distributed throughout these departments by setting expectations clear from the beginning, being honest and open and transparent about all of our roles and responsibilities. As William said, one-to-ones would certainly be helpful. I would go into those meetings with the goal of finding out what one's hopes and goals for their position are over the course of the year, because setting those boundaries and goals and setting those expectations at the beginning of the year is important to maintaining a smooth year and also successful within their position. So going into the year with those expectations and creating that person-to-person connection from the beginning of the year with one-to-one meetings would definitely be important. Also, I would begin my contact with all of these departments with a group meeting, regular group meetings as well, to keep up with the status of the initiatives of these different departments. But similar to one-on-ones, going into a group meeting and this academic school year with clear goals in mind, what I expect from these departments, what they expect from me, and how we can achieve those goals together or over the course of the year. I think that clear, transparent communication is necessary to prevent conflicts over the course of the year. to prevent delays, miscommunications, etc., and those issues. That's how I'd go about coordinating support and leadership across these different departments.
Thank you. The next question is a hypothetical situation. There has been an event on campus that has raised an abundance of public discourse, and you are being asked for comments from news outlets on and off campus. How would you go about addressing the student body / public on AS's stance? You have 2 minutes, and we'll go Abigail and then William. You have the floor.
So my first move in this situation would be to investigate what the backlash is rooted in. What was the issue? What was the unintended harm, perhaps, of our initiative or the miscommunication that resulted in this public backlash? Once that situation has been assessed, I'd coordinate with other members of AS and our departments to figure out, one, our collective stance on this issue, and two, how we can make sure that it doesn't happen again going forward. So pinpointing the source of the issue would be the most important and first step that I would take. Coordinating and communicating with other departments to figure out what happened, how this happened, and what we can do right now is what I would do before I contact any other news organizations or respond to them for comment, because it's important to be unified as AS, because this organization does represent the student body of UCSD, and as such, we have values and a mission to uphold. So going into this public issue backlash, I would coordinate comprehensively and honestly with other members of AS and together decide what went wrong and how we can approach this issue so that when our correspondence with news organizations, when we release those, it is a unified message of clear understanding what happened and how we can prevent this problem from occurring in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. And William, would you like me to repeat this, or are you good?
I'm good. Thank you, though.
Thank you. You have 2 minutes.
Yeah, so for this approach, I would foster a very collaborative kind of environment on kind of pursuing a solution to this. I think kind of getting more background and more details on this is essential just for starters, but then also working with the rest of the executive officer team to kind of get a better kind of idea of kind of what response we're looking to put out and kind of where their heads are at. Furthermore, after that point, helping kind of draft a statement with them. I remember having to do this many times throughout this year. I think one that particularly comes to mind was during budget, having to kind of craft internal messaging on what that looked like and what steps we were going to be taking. So I definitely think working collaboratively with the rest of exec, working on drafting kind of language, kind of getting their input, their feedback on the said language. And then from there, making sure it's kind of disseminated in all the proper outlets, whether that be through our internal newsletter, our AS Instagram, or just a mass email sent to the necessary parties kind of involved in the situation. All in all, I think my experience in working with different senators throughout the year on kind of newspaper inquiries has definitely provided me a lot of understanding and better awareness of the kind of how to approach these situations. I remember kind of coaching senators for their public interview or their interviews with different news outlets, kind of providing guidance and support to them that they didn't really have before. Seeing as kind of we're all college students and usually aren't getting interviewed by big media outlets or just media outlets generally. So I think by providing that support, they were able to kind of foster better communications with whoever was interviewing them, but also give them a sort of ease in those conversations. And support that they didn't really have before. So I definitely think kind of taking a more collaborative approach, kind of working with all the parties involved and making sure that unified message is sent out is essential to ensuring that we're actively representing the kind of views of our student body and not alienating anyone in the process.
Thank you very much. With that being said, those are all of the questions that we had for you guys. However, now we are going to move on to public questions, first from Senate and our association. Are there any senators present today that would like to ask a question? Senator Sittengang?
Hey, so this is a question I've asked for. It's mainly in relation to communication with college councils, since we're all different parts of the student government here at UCSD, a unique aspect compared to other campuses. How how do you plan to make sure, as Chief Communications Officer, that AS and college councils are on the same page, at least in terms of receiving the same information and being able to work?
We'll start off with William, and then we'll go to Abigail. You each have 2 minutes to answer that question.
Yeah, I think this is a great question. So I think through my time as AVP of College Affairs my last year, and now the communication officer this year, I've kind of gained a lot of insight on the college council experience. And not to say I completely understand, where every college council comes from, because they're each unique in their kind of different approaches and kind of ways they operate. That being said, though, I think working with the Office of College Affairs and especially the AVP of College Affairs is kind of essential with supporting and making sure that the college councils have kind of full understanding of what AS is doing. I think oftentimes the miscommunication can occur when the AVP isn't kind of brought in or looped in on certain matters. And I think that situation, or those great situations where perhaps the college councils get confused or aren't completely aware of what's going on. So I think continuing in this role, if that would happen, I would continue working with the kind of AVP of College Affairs and also making sure to attend LCC meetings where each of the college council presidents and respective leadership tend to make sure that they have the updates that they need to kind of provide their colleges, and also working with the AVP of College Affairs to make sure that when they meet with college senators, they're also kind of aware and understanding of what's going on within the association, not just on the Senate level, but also on the cabinet level. And I think something that we can improve on for sure is providing more context and input on the executive level. I think oftentimes executive decisions are made, but maybe perhaps there's not as enough communication to the rest of the Senate. So again, working with the AVP of College Affairs to make sure that those kind of decisions or situations are also being made aware to the respective leadership within the college council.
Thank you. Next, we'll go to Abigail.
My primary strategy for coordinating relationship and information exchange between this role and other councils would be to be organized and timely. As soon as I know something that is relevant to councils, there's no reason for a delay, because I can't expect cohesive, consistent communication unless I practice that myself. So if I were to have this role, I would use my experience as a liaison in previous roles, for example, my newspaper background. As a sports editor, as a writer, I've had many different roles on each side of the information exchange. And I know the value and the importance of coordinating with higher ups, the editorial board, and our writers to make sure that the newspaper runs smoothly. So I understand the importance of being timely and being organized when disseminating information and coordinating with different councils and departments. That would be my primary strategy, to make sure that we're all on the same page and we're all fully supporting each other's initiatives with full honesty and transparency. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any more questions from senators? Senator El-Khoury.
Yeah, so when AS is hiring, it is essential that all students are aware of the open positions and the details of that open position. So how would you as CCO improve this aspect of our communication?
We'll start off with Abigail, and then we'll go to William. You have 2 minutes.
I would improve this aspect of these communications by starting early, publicizing this with as much time before the application is due as possible, in order to encourage the most diverse pool of student applicants and the most student applicants possible. As for publicizing the details of this position, perhaps interviewing the current person in this position, in this case, William, and publicizing sort of his experience in this role and what the day-to-day life in this role would look like. That would be very effective in both encouraging students to apply and to participate in AS, and informing them on what AS representatives are doing on their behalf in order to benefit them on the day-to-day life in these roles. That would both increase transparency between the student body and AS, and also encourage a more diverse applicant pool to these positions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will move on to William. You have 2 minutes.
Can you repeat the question real quick?
So when AS is hiring, it is essential that all students are aware of the open position and the details of the open role. How would you improve this aspect of communications as a CTO?
Yeah, great question. So I think since a lot of the offices kind of handle their own hiring, kind of how that works and the promotion of that, I would just work with those different offices to make sure that they have the full breadth and support from like our marketing teams, whether that be ASPR or kind of my office, to make sure that they have the right materials to promote the positions that they need, whether that's from a graphic studio or from ASPR, and then also make sure that cross promote that on our social media account. Oftentimes, a lot of our other offices don't have a lot of social media following, so their applicant pool can kind of be smaller because of that. So something this year that I kind of improved and took initiative for was making sure that offices who didn't have the biggest following were also cross promoted, not just on the AS account, but across all the other AS kind of social media accounts that we have. I think kind of talking and kind of piggybacking off something I mentioned earlier was more physical promotion. So I think flyers, although great for just viewing, can be very unsustainable and if not harmful to kind of our campus environment. So I think kind of going more into digital advertising, which the Trident print office kind of supports and provides, could be a way to kind of promote position openings more physically on our campus and not just social media, because oftentimes students, especially first year, maybe come on the campus, don't know what AS is, don't know all the different offices that are hiring. And so if that content is only on our social media account, then they will never get the chance to apply. So I think making sure to promote that more physically is something I will definitely push more next year if I get the opportunity again, to ensure that we have a wide range of applicant pools or applicants from diverse pools.
Thank you both very much. Do we have any more questions from senators? Senator Bautista.
Yeah, right now I feel like our website is super not navigate. What is the word? Is that a word? Navigate? No. Y'all know what I mean. Yeah, yes. So what are just some ideas you guys have in terms of, I guess, in relation to all the other questions we've also asked you, like to, I guess, spruce up our website?
So sorry about that. We'll start off with William and then we'll go to Abigail. You have 2 minutes each.
Yeah, great question. Full transparency, the website has been a burden for me all year. But yes, so this is an ongoing issue. Ever since we moved to kind of the new kind of website platform from AS, it's been kind of difficult to make additions to the website, just to give that context. But something that I'm currently still working on is making sure that that is accessible, making sure that we can provide our meeting minutes on there, kind of our Senate update videos. Right now, something we're kind of working on behind the scenes and haven't fully promoted yet is our kind of YouTube channel where we're kind of storing Senate videos. So once that's ready to go, I'll make sure to promote that. But essentially, yes, I would say right now the website, a lot of room for improvement. I think once we kind of fully better understand on like the ITS side of things, how it operates and how to make additions to it, then we'll see a more refined and better user-friendly website. Because right now, I think on the back end, that's still kind of a main issue. Just trying to make sure, like on the ITS things, that we were able to add things and that's all functioning properly.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to Abigail. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. As William said, ITS is definitely something to work on. I don't have any experience with that or with AS, which in this case, I think would be an advantage because I have no attachment to the previous website. Therefore, if people identify problems, I am completely willing to tackle them. First, I'd go about that by simplifying it, making sure that the information that students need to know is the most accessible and what you see first when you pull up the website. That way you don't have to go down 5 million tabs to find something that might be helpful to you. Not to come across as too harsh on the website. Obviously, that's how I got here. But I think primarily simplifying the content and streamlining what will be most helpful to students, what will be most beneficial to them, that's what should be most accessible, and that's what you should see as soon as you pull it up. So sort of clarifying all the different parts of the website, all of the different headings, and where you can find where you can find whatever information or resource that you are looking for. That's how I would go about tackling this issue.
Thank you very much. For the sake of time, we're going to allow one more question from our senators. Do our senators have any more questions? No? Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you guys for answering those questions from our senators. The next section is going to be public input questions from the public, which I believe we don't have any questions. So I actually had a question that I prepared. And so if anyone in the audience does have questions, I highly suggest you guys ask them using that QR code. You ask the form. Apologies, but we can't accept like verbal questions. Oh. Okay. So I'll ask a question and then you guys can write down your questions in the meantime. My question is for the both of you. This year, we have seen UCSD administration crack down on student and student organizations' communication abilities. The at UCSD must now be at UC San Diego on all of our social medias for student orgs. Student orgs are also no longer to use the .ucsd.edu domain for their student org websites. A lot of student orgs and students are facing challenges creating merchandise with any UCSD branding on them. I've personally seen this working in Trident Outfitters. It's almost impossible now to get UCSD on your merch. How do you stop further communication limitations from being put on students by our administration? I'll first start with Abigail, and then we'll go to William. And you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I've also seen this in practice. I am part of the executive board for Girls Who Run, and we were trying to create merch that had UCSD on it. That did not go very well. I think how I would go about this first is by fostering a better relationship with the administration, reaching out so that we both know where each other stand, and the administration understands our intentions, which is not to alienate them or alienate students. Rather, we are both trying to work together we are both trying to work for the betterment of student life here on campus. So throughout these changes, even from using UCSD to UC San Diego, I think it's important to stay professional and represent AAS and its brand to the best of our abilities while improving the relationship, whether through meetings with administrators and ensuring that communication between student clubs, student organizations, and advertisement of the UC San Diego brand and the school is not compromised, but rather encouraged, because we're all students here and we're all representing UC San Diego as a whole, whether that's through an AS role or as a student on campus. So I'd primarily go about this problem by fostering a better relationship with the administration and encouraging them to understand our goals are also to work on behalf of the students.
Thank you very much. William, would you like me to repeat the question, or are you good? Okay, or repeat the question. This year, we have seen UCSD administration crack down on students and student organizations' communication abilities. The at UCSD must now be at UC San Diego for all of our social medias. Student orgs are also no longer allowed to use the .ucsd.edu website domain and are facing challenges creating merchandise with any UCSD branding on them. How would you stop further communication limitations from being put on students and student organizations by our administration? You have 2 minutes to answer that. Thank you.
Yeah, great question. So yeah, I think definitely having more dialogue and conversations with admin is kind of the first approach. I think also working with the AVP of Student Org and AVP of Enterprise and Services to kind of understand both the student org side of things, but also the merchandise side of things is essential. But I think definitely kind of reaching out to the respective admin on, ways that this can be improved or ways we can remedy this. I think this year, we've had a lot of productive conversations with admin, I think more than last year. And I think that's a benefit of reaching out more and kind of getting to stand and kind of see like why they're implementing these practices. I think oftentimes that, dialogue with admin is overlooked. So I think definitely reaching out more and kind of trying to work with both admin but also student org is essential to kind of find a remedy for the situation. And then if a remedy is able to be achieved, perhaps hosting like a town hall to kind of make sure that this is widely promoted on our social media accounts, but also physically. Because oftentimes I feel like things occur, but then there's not a lot of dissemination of it occurring. But yes, I would say definitely reach out more to admin, work with the president, who kind of is a direct link to administrators oftentimes, and the different admin within the different departments. Since I'm sure this is not just one administrator just saying no. I think it's more of a nuanced issue, and it's probably coming from different areas within our kind of administrative areas. So I think working with the president to kind of get in touch with the different administrators and then work with AVP of student orgs and president services would be essential to kind of finding a solution to this.
Thank you very much. Okay. The next question is, what do you think sets you apart from everyone else who applied to this position? I will ask William to answer that first, and then we'll go to Abigail. And you have 2 minutes.
I think that's a great question. I would say, first, my experience, I think AS is a very complex, institution, so to speak. And oftentimes there's a lot of things that you need to learn and kind of be aware of. And I think throughout my time in AS, I'm still learning new things, and things are still, becoming newer as, we add things to our bylaws or just new practices. So I definitely think for starters, that would be something that sets me apart. But additionally, kind of my knowledge and kind of my skill set. I'm someone who, really values media and kind of marketing and production and sort of like the PR side of things. And I think throughout my time in AS, that's been able to be fostered very well. And I think that's been shown through my ability to, create amazing events here on campus. I've created 2 Trident and Dines, and before that, as AVP of College Affairs, I was able to create Bloom Bath, which was an event that never existed before, but through collaborative effort and working with different offices, I want to say about 4, was able to create a whole new event that got over 600 attendees. So I think fostering those relationships as well and making those connections with AS is also pivotal to kind of ensuring that you have a very productive and efficient kind of term. And additionally, with those events, I think learning a lot throughout the years has definitely allowed me to flourish more in how to make events and how to produce those. On the more marketing side of things, throughout my time as CCO, I've learned a lot from the AS Graphic Studio and the ASPR team to really create engaging content that students love to see, whether that's our reels that promote events or the reels we did for the UPass and elections, and even the promotion of these applications. I think that kind of knowledge and skill set that I've learned throughout my time in AS definitely sets me apart. And I think now my passion to go into more media-related projects, whether that's the AS podcast and other shows that I plan to do or hope to do on Library Walk, will really allow the AS account to grow more and become more personable. I'll leave it at that.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but that is time. The next question is, this is from someone who submitted the form. During my time here, I have seen how UC San Diego students are vocal regarding AS events and decisions. How do you plan to balance student expectations and hope with the restraints of the role to promote a more positive student body? We'll start with William, and then we'll go to Abigail. You have 2 minutes.
Can I have a chance to answer the
Oh my
previous
God.
question?
Oh my God, did you not answer? I'm so sorry. Abigail, please, and would you like me to repeat that question?
No, I think I got it. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you very much. I'm so sorry about that.
Honestly, I think my lack of experience with AS would be beneficial here because I've never had this role before. I bring in new energy, enthusiasm, and ideas that someone who is more accustomed to this role may not have. For instance, my flexibility and adaptability, even just being here today on short notice, I think would come in handy for a communications officer, as well as my ability to build person-to-person connections and to reach out to people from different backgrounds with different experiences. I've taken a mentorship role through various different experiences in my life, whether that be in the newspaper or as an orientation leader here at UC San Diego for Thurgood Marshall College. I pursue roles where I can make these person-to-person connections and share my experiences, try to teach or guide people in other roles. And I think that experience, being able to listen, to observe, and to reach out to people with diverse backgrounds and perspectives, as well as my experience with written communication as a reporter and digital media through platforms used to produce the newspaper in high school, would come in handy in this position. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And again, huge apologies. I did not mean to skip over you on that question. The next question I'll repeat is from a user who said, during my time here, I have seen how UC San Diego students are vocal regarding AS events and decisions. How do you plan to balance student expectations and hopes with the restraints of the role to promote a more positive student body? And so, Abigail, you will answer that question, and you have 2 minutes, and then we'll go to William. Thank you.
So I would balance the restraints of the role with the desire to promote a more positive student body by being honest and transparent about AS initiatives. I think direct communication, explaining how initiatives would help students, regardless of failure to meet student expectations or failure to meet student goals, would be very, very important, because AS initiatives are not going out with the intention of alienating students, obviously. So communicating that shared intention and goal of benefiting the student body would be the primary way that I would go about balancing student expectations, as well as just listening to student expectations. Obviously, the restraints of this role mean that we cannot pursue every student initiative or desire. However, listening, observing, and understanding where students are coming from and where their concerns lie mean that we can develop solutions that may abide by the restraints of our role and solve this issue, rather than just ignoring or merely observing these issues and student concerns. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And would you like me to repeat that question, William? You're good? Okay, thank you. You have 2 minutes.
Yeah, I think for this, kind of establishing more opportunities for students to kind of provide their input is something I would definitely look into more. I think a missed opportunity this year was a kind of advocacy agenda, which usually happens on an annual basis. So if I were to return, I would work with the EVP on that to kind of foster more student input, since historically the advocacy agenda has been a way to really gather student opinions through surveys and data, and then kind of present those to the Senate to set kind of our policies throughout the year. Aside from that, though, I think more town halls, but more strategic town halls, are something we need to pursue more, just to get that more student input. And then, given all this input and all this data, working to kind of create events or initiatives that students really desire, is something at the end of the day I think would greatly show AS's commitment to making sure that student voices are heard, and that their opinions are valued within or different initiatives or events.
Awesome. Thank you both very much. So that concludes this interview today for the Chief Communication Officer. Can we all get a round of applause for our 2 applicants? So we have the public input evaluation form up here. So if you are a member of the public, please fill this out. It also helps enter you into the giveaway. So yes, please fill this out if you can. Again, thank you both so very much. Thank you, William, for coming. Thank you, Abigail, for coming on such short notice as well. So thank you both so much. And you all hear back from us soon. And thank you so much to the members of the public for coming and being civically engaged. And that's it for me. Thank you guys so much.
You guys should probably leave the QR code up or no? Yeah,